Alright, back here on Luke here, and as you can see in front of you, this is my Chihiro Model 3 arcade hardware, and I decided to take this thing apart because unfortunately it wasn't acting quite right, and as I did take it apart, I came across this. Ta-da! You can see there are 3 bulging caps there, and this one had already bursted and was starting to leave a really nasty remnant on top. Actually, when I opened this thing up, I looked at it and I thought, okay, what is that, glue? I just kind of touched it, it flaked off, but yeah, you can see how it's opened up here. These are 3300 microfarad 6.3 volt caps, and not exactly the most common, but I remember I did a PC cap replacement a long time ago, and when I did so, I actually bought some of the exact same 3300 6.3 volt capacitors, so really happy about that. Got a whole pack here, and I'm gonna go ahead and replace these caps here, these 3. The other ones for right now seem to be okay. You know, normally it would be a good idea to do all of this. If I, you know, you can see that Microsoft's got their little logo on here on the board, but yeah, maybe put a little bit of thermal paste up underneath here on the processor and do all that good stuff and try and get this thing going. But yeah, we're gonna have to take these 3 caps out here and then go ahead and replace these, so let's jump on that. Be back in a few. Alright, so now we got the board out here. It came out with relative ease. It wasn't too bad. It came out quite simply. What we're gonna have to do, because removing capacitors here from like computer motherboards can be quite tricky. It actually does take a little bit of heat, and it takes a little bit of time. Sometimes you have to reflow the solder, add a little bit more solder in order to free up the holes here on these caps. But we'll try and get those out there, and once we get those out, we'll put in the new ones. But yeah, not too bad so far. Let's get on this and get the new ones in there. Alright, one little note that I wanted to add here that I found is actually trying to use my solder sucker to try and remove the solder from the legs here was not really successful. It didn't work out so well. You know, these didn't generally want to come out, especially for the grounding pin. You can tell the grounding pin is with the square area. Grounding pins usually on most ICs or any kind of circuit boards happen to be the strongest, and they hold really well. Unfortunately, a little bit too well, so it's almost difficult for you to get that last pin out most of the time. So what I did to get this out is I just added a little bit of solder to each leg, and while keeping the soldering pin on one leg, I just grabbed the top of it and just pulled it out like this. Rocked one side to the side until the pin came out, and then the other side, keeping constant heat on it, just pulled that to the other side in order to get that out. That seems to be the best way. With these smaller traces, especially on circuit boards that are mostly for PCs, circuit boards, it can be really dangerous to be using a solder sucker, especially one of the automatic ones, because what may happen from time to time is if you have one of the spring-loaded ones and you use it, sometimes they leave a divot, and breaking one of these really fine traces here is not really fun for most people. So I recommend probably just doing it that way, and then just do these one at a time. I don't recommend taking them all out. Just get one out, clean up the hole here. You can probably use a solder sucker, or you can you know, use some soldering wick or something to get the excess solder around the hole here removed, and then we'll put in the new capacitor. So let's get on that right now. We'll go ahead and try and clean up these holes here, and then we'll put in the new cap. So be back in a few. Alright, so using our solder sucker here, we're able to get these holes all cleaned out, and they look really nice. Once again, like I had said before, doing these one at a time, the main reason why is one thing that I've noticed, especially with this circuit board here, is it appears that there are you know, a couple of places where at one time maybe there could have been more capacitors added, but it looks like for the circuit board, at least the way the circuit board is made up here, those caps are not in there. And what may happen if you don't do this just one at a time, you might wind up finding yourself putting in capacitors where they don't need to be put in. So just do these one at a time. Also, an important thing to make sure of is to remember which way the cap goes in. You can tell here by the white striped area, this is going to be our ground. So what we're going to do is take our new cap, and we're going to put the new cap in here, and let's see if we can do this through the camera. like so. And then we're gonna go and get some solder, put the solder on the other side, and get this cap secured. And we'll do that for the other two here, and then we'll put it all back together, and that should be the end of that one here. So interesting enough, you can see here that this one says Xbox Arcade Motherboard. Pretty cool. So yeah, let's get on this, and we'll put these new caps in here, and then go from there. So see you guys back here in a few. Alright, so there we go. We've got our new capacitors all in there. Look very, very nice. And these caps came out quite easily. Once again, you guys can take a look at how these caps look here and how they've exploded at the top. And what this generally will do, especially around the processor area, it just cause a lot of problems. It won't start up. The game board will throw up errors, things like that. Generally happens to a lot of the caps that are located around the CPU. So if you have a PC that's kind of acting up, you might want to check and see if they have the if the caps are starting to bulge out. And like I had mentioned, on the bottom of the board, you want to apply some new solder, and just put it on the legs themselves, and then while you're heating it up, just pull to one side, and then you should be able to get these things to kind of slide out, and then keep applying it to the other side, and keep rocking it back and forth. You'll eventually get them both out, and then once you have the holes there, put another drop of solder on top of them, just so that it fills the hole, or it floods the hole. Then use your solder sucker, and it'll clean the hole right out, and you'll have a really good place to solder. It'll be really easy to put the new caps in. So what I'm going to do next is I'm just going to take a look up underneath here and take a look at the processor, and maybe clean out this fan a little bit, and then we'll put it back together. So let's get on that. Alright, so I managed to get these heat sinks off here, and quite tricky, especially with this one. This one just felt really, really cheap, like it was going to snap. What I had to do is get a flathead screwdriver and kind of put it up underneath the bottom of this thing to pry it out from the two hooks that it's on there, but you had to do it really, really carefully, because I felt like if I just pushed too hard on it while I'm trying to open this thing up or trying to take it off, it was just going to, just snap this plastic part off, and I didn't want that, so just had to be very careful with this. And when it came to the one for the GPU, this thing was a nightmare. Man, was this thing stuck on there. This thing was just, it almost was like glue, but this is, you can see here, it's just all kind of hardened up and flaky. And what I had to do is because I couldn't manually do it here, what I had to do is get a flathead screwdriver and put it on the plastic here, and then up underneath this this metal tab here, what I did is, I just applied some pressure, and then it suddenly, just came off and just went, pop. But yeah, so I got that off, so I'm gonna have to try and clean this up just a little bit here, and I'm gonna get some regular thermal paste that I have and try and apply that, and yeah, hopefully that'll make it a little bit cooler, make this thing last a little bit longer. So I'm gonna get on that and give that a shot. I'll be back in a little bit. Alright, so I've got everything cleaned up. I just put the old fan back on here, and got everything, put some new silver grease on there, and I'll put this heatsink back on here, and then we'll try and get the rest of this all put back together and see how it goes. It should work out quite well, but try and fit this back on here, like so. Like I said, this thing, trying to pull this thing off here was a bit tricky. Maybe trying to get it back on will be a little bit easier, but still kind of made me feel really uncomfortable here. There we go. Okay, I got that. Just because it's, it's plastic. I hate, plastic. It should have been metal, but then we'll just push this back down, and got our heatsink back on there, and that should be alright. So all we have to do now is put everything back inside the case, and then put it back together and see how it goes. So we'll get on that right now. Okay, so as you guys can see here, we've got our board mostly back in. We've got all of these wires connected up here. Make sure that you have any of the wires that need to be connected to this bottom motherboard plugged in before we start moving on to the next point. Also, one more thing to note is where these posts go. There are a couple places where these posts could go, like for example here, over here there's a screw, and over here there's a couple of screws. Just make sure you don't put these posts in the wrong place, or else you'll probably have a lot of trouble trying to get this thing back together. one good way to look at it, if you don't remember exactly where they go, is take a look at the pattern of the board that sits on top of it. You can see each one of these holes here is where the posts come out. So when you go and put this board back in, each one of those posts is going to come through these holes here. So just be careful with that before you go to put it back together, and you should be okay. So let's get the rest of this here put back together. We'll put the other side on, and then I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. One more thing that I wanted to mention here is before you put this top board back on, what I recommend doing is removing the CR2032 battery, because the last thing that you want is, since these are metal posts here, when you go to put this thing back together, you don't want anything grounding out, and because it's a battery, it's basically turned this whole chip or this whole board into one live positive and negative, maze. So if you accidentally do hit something that is a positive point on it with a negative post, you're probably going to wind up grounding something out and burning out one of the components here, or shocking it. So, and that'll cause you a lot more trouble. So make sure you remove that before you put this thing back in. Also, with this this post here, you don't have to take it out. All you have to do is just bend it back a little bit. You'll see that it kind of pops out here, but it does keep the board in place. So you will have to move that out of the way there just to get the board to pop out. So now we got all that on, what we're going to have to do is put our adapter board here on the side. It just has a bunch of screws on the outside here, and then it just pulls right off. So just pop that one back on, and then we'll put the screws back in it and give that a go. But we'll have to put the rest of the screws in here and get this board all situated as well. Make sure that we put them all back in here. We don't want any loose screws or anything like that. But we'll get that done, put the top part on here, and give it a shot. So, see you in a bit. Alright, so now you can see everything back together here. You'll notice one slight modification here, one difference to everything, and that is that this Model 3 here has been kind of downgraded to a Model 1, and you might be asking yourself, why in the heck did you do that, Luke? And the main reason is because there are only a couple of games that will work with the Model 1, and they won't work with the Model 3. So I've got this awesome topper here that I wound up getting from the Andy Geezer. Awesome guy. I really appreciate the hookup on this. And yeah, I'll show you guys what it does. You can see it's already powered up, just because it takes a few seconds and so to to get everything running here. You guys can see what game is in there.
Crazy Taxi High Roller.
So that's it. So you can see it's up and working now, and I've got another game here for it that you guys have seen, probably you saw when I picked it up, but nonetheless, just want to show you guys that this thing is working very well. And
crazy cabbies earning crazy money. Yes, it's the West Coast.
But yeah, the new caps in there are working really well. It's went back together really smoothly and no issues. So, but yeah, just want to share this with you guys here, and hopefully you guys got a little bit of enjoyment out of it. One more thing that I can, let's put this thing back into demo mode. One more thing here that I'd like to tell you guys about this system is when you go to put a Model 1 top on, Model 1 tops have a tendency to not seat very well, especially with the DIMM boards. The DIMM boards don't want to seat properly with the Model 1 board. To kind of rectify this problem, or to fix it, especially when you go to attach the top board here, what I recommend is removing this whole bottom board here from the unit itself. And what you want to do is take the DIMM board on the top and the bottom board on the bottom and really push them together, because the circuit boards, they flex, and when they flex, it doesn't get a really solid fit here with this top board and the bottom board, and sometimes you'll get error 22. So get that seated first, and then once you get that done, then you can put your whole top back on here and just slip it in. There's only one connector here for the top part on the Model 1, whereas there's 3 connectors here for the DIMM board on the Model 1 top. So you want to get this one situated more than this one. This one's a lot easier to get in there. Once you get that done, you shouldn't have to worry about your error 22, and it should be all set. But in order to play these games on this Model 1, there's only 2 games. You need the 512 meg DIMM board with firmware of 3.3 or higher. So that's something that you'll need. If you try and use a regular DIMM board, even a net DIMM board, just a normal one, it won't work unless you're doing net booting. But yeah, that's just something I wanted to share with you guys right now. And like always, I'll put up another video here soon. So thanks for watching.